Now to Garry Graham, Deputy General Secretary of Prospect, the union representing government employees. What's your assessment of the blog? Do you think it accurately describes the kind of people the civil service needs?
Well, when I was first sent through the text of the blog last night, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a spoof. I thought somebody perhaps had too much Baileys over the new year. And it was only later on in the evening that I went and looked at his website and saw it was an accurate representation.
And that was because, sorry to interrupt, but that, just in case anyone hasn't read the blog, that was because he talks about hiring super talented weirdos, true wildcards, artists, people who never went to university, fought their way out of an appalling hellhole. Was it these lines that made you think that it was a spoof?
Well, it was partly those, but I was particularly disappointed by the way that he seemed to describe the civil service. It was a civil service I didn't recognise. I've been dealing with the private and the public sector for almost 3 decades now. And listen, the civil service we have is absolutely world renowned. All organisations can get better. We live in a challenging world. Obviously, things need to change. We need to ensure that we have the skills that we need for the future. But the way that he seemed to describe the civil service was a caricature and something that seemed to hail back to an episode of Yes Minister 20, 30 years ago, which I didn't recognise, representing the talented members that we do, who are professionals and scientists and engineers right across the civil service.
So you don't think there's a kind of complacent groupthink of, Oxbridge types?
Not at all. Now, I think in terms of the blog, it raises some salient and important issues. I just read a paper yesterday from the Policy Exchange, which touches on some of the things that Mr. Cumming talks about, perhaps in a more considered and less confrontational way. And I think there are issues here about how do we ensure that people with STEM skills, engineering, science, are at the heart of both policy development and policy delivery, something we are passionate about and want to ensure happens. But I certainly did not recognise the caricature that he made of the civil service, and it's something that many of our members will find quite insulting.
What about some of the aspects of the blog in which Mr. Cummings talks about not seeing one's partner or not having weekends, the kind of suggestion that you're going to really work very, very long hours?
Well, listen, I think this is particularly worrying, and one never knows with Mr. Cummings as to who is he speaking on behalf of. Is he speaking in an individual capacity? Is he speaking on behalf of the Prime Minister? But really, to advertise a job and seek to specify the age at which somebody should would be able to take that job, to specify that they shouldn't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or implicit in that, I suppose, must be children, to suggest that they will work all hours God sends and can be sacked at will.
It might be a bit tongue-in-cheek. Do you think it's possible it was tongue-in-cheek, some of that, though?
Well, listen, if a member of my staff wrote that kind of thing and then put it in the public domain, we would certainly be having a very serious conversation the next day. So I'd like to know, are the views expressed there the views of Dominic Cumming? Are they the views of the Prime Minister? And is this their vision of employment rights and protection for the future?
Garry Graham, thank you for joining us.